Hello and welcome to the Culture Swally, a podcast dedicated to Scottish news and culture. My name is Nicky, and as always, I'm joined by the man who is currently in Scotland. Let's hope when he comes back, they don't give him a Glasgow send-off. It's Greg. How are you doing, Greg? I mean, I was going to say you were in Glasgow, but technically you're in Cumbernauld, and it doesn't work unless you can tell us what's in a Cumbernauld send-off.
I don't know. Something that was invented in the 1960s. I imagine, since almost all of Cumbernauld, ironically, apart from the bit that I'm currently in, is prefab Newtown. I'm in the village, like the original bit, in my dad's house, that I've been for the last 9 days doing my self-isolation. Nobody has called from, I guess it will be the UK border people. Nobody is called to make sure that I'm following the rules. It appears to be done entirely on trust. I sent away both PCR tests. Like, I did the first one on day 2 and did the last one yesterday. They both come back negative. So I'm looking forward to getting out and about. It's very strange to be here all this time and not go anywhere or see many people. So
I can imagine so, and you must be dying for as we discussed on the last episode at great length, you must be dying for a nice pint of Tennent's.
Yeah.
Have you had a roll and square? Have you had a Scotch pie or anything? Yeah. Have you been able to sample those delights?
I haven't. The only two things that I've had is my sister got me a bottle of the 1910 recipe Iron Brew, glass bottle.
Oh yes, lovely.
Which I enjoyed. Ironically, considering I work in food, I don't have the greatest palate, but I think it's slightly less sweet than the normal stuff. And the other thing that I've had that I was looking forward to is some Marshall's macaroni cheese. Just the heat up in the oven stuff. Okay. I had it last night with some oven chips, with salt and vinegar on my oven chips. It took me back to Saturday nights at my granny's in the 1980s, watching Airwolf and the A-Team and stuff like that, having my macaroni cheese and chips off my knee. Very nice.
Oh well, so it's not as if you can tell us all the exciting things that you've been up to in Scotland since you haven't been able to get out, but you've been catching up with some Scottish TV, I would imagine.
I have. I've been taking advantage of having the BBC iPlayer at my fingertips without having to use a VPN. So I've kind of burned my way through Two Doors Down, all of it. Now, I've been watching it anyway, sort of off and on in Dubai, but I've been watching it on my phone because my VPN app is on my phone. I need to work out how to put the VPN on my computer or so I can stream to the TV. So I hadn't watched all of it, so I just kind of burned through it all. So I'm all caught up with Two Doors Down, so I'm hoping that we can review some of that in the future. And I've been watching Rab Florence's, the Burniston boys' new show that's on BBC at the moment, The Scots, which we're just discussing before we started recording.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I'm glad you've been catching up with some good Scottish content that we can maybe review at a later date on the Swally. But in the meantime, shall we have a look at what's been happening in Scotland? I mean, I could just literally ask you since you're there, but unless you can tell me what's been happening out your window, then maybe we should have a look at the news.
Let's look at the news. Cue the jingle.
Hello, this is the Outer Hebrides Broadcasting Corporation, and here is what's been going on in the news.
Okay, Greg, so what have you seen out the window this last week that has caught your eye?
Well, so I was looking at the news today, so I left it not quite the last minute. I was looking for stories this morning, and we've said it before, but I don't think the Scottish news has ever been quite as depressing as it is at the minute. However, I did manage to find one story which doesn't involve a girl hitting another girl and blaming it on a pot noodle. Listeners will be pleased to know. I've got a wee feel-good story as well. So my first story concerns a TV show that I know that you and your lovely wife are big fans of, the Great British Bake Off.
Oh, I love the Bake Off. It's starting again next week. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, Scottish Great British Bake Off fans are apparently fuming because there are no Scottish contestants picked for the new series. Last year's... Now, so there's a typo in here. I don't watch the Great British Bake Off, but I know that it started on the BBC and has since moved over to Channel 4. This journalist is not... Yes. This journalist clearly not up on current events with the Bake Off. So they've said last year's series of the hit BBC series saw Peter Sawkins, an accounting and finance student from Edinburgh, take home the Bake Off crown, whilst Laura Adlington and Dave Friday finished as the runners-up. As well as becoming the show's youngest ever winner at only 20 years old, he was also the first Scottish winner in the show's decade-long history. This year, the show returns for its 12th series on the 21st of September, and we'll see contestants with backgrounds in Goa, Germany, Greece, as well as Cyprus, Kenya, Portugal, and the Middle East. However, despite its diverse lineup, it seems to be suffering from a distinct lack of Scottish, Northern Irish, and Welsh contestants. A fact which, it will come as no surprise to you, hasn't gone unnoticed online. One unhappy Bake Off fan said, "Lots of international flavours there. Pity not one single person living in Scotland, Wales or Ireland. Needs to be renamed the Great English International Bake Off." Another added, "I'll still watch and enjoy, #GBBO, but it does seem odd that the Great British," spelt in capital letters, Bake Off has no
oh my god,
has no competitors based in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland this year. Presume applications were looked at blind to location, and it's just pure chance. But still, and a third remarked, "So much for the Great British," again, capital letters, Bake Off. No representation from Scotland. Surely it shouldn't be difficult for Channel 4 and British Bake Off to choose at least one representative from every nation every year. #GBBO, #Bake Off. And someone asked, "Does anyone know why there are no Welsh, Irish or Scottish folks in the Great British Bake Off this year?" #GBBO, #Bake Off. Hosts Paul Hollywood, Prue Leith, Matt Lucas and Noel Fielding will all return this year for the show, which sees everyone from a 19-year-old vegan psychology student from Yorkshire up to a 70-year-old retired nurse and midwife from Dorset competing for the crown. So what do you think about that? Do you think this is Channel 4 anti-Scottish prejudice because a Scottish guy won last year? They couldn't bear to see us win something twice in a row?
I think this is the perfect opportunity. Nicola, if you're listening, and I know you do listen to Swally, Nicola, you need to put adverts for independence on Channel 4 during the Bake Off.
Yeah.
And that'll get, because people will be fired up, and it's just like putting Braveheart on as well. People will get fired up and they'll be so annoyed that the Scots aren't making their flans and their breads and their soggy bottoms that people will want independence on this. Oh, what a load of shite. Yes, okay, it was a Scot that won it last year. I was very proud and I was supporting him from the off because he's Scottish, and it's the same with all these things. But first of all, I do think there is a lack of Scottish representation in a lot of these shows. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of The Apprentice, for example.
Yeah.
I think there's only been maybe like 2-3 Scottish contestants over the course of the years, and they've all been fucking idiots. Things like X Factor and stuff, you'd get the odd token Scot. Oh, do you remember the MacDonald brothers? Wonder whatever happened to them.
What about the wee Scottish guy Liam that won the X Factor? Was it Liam from Livingston?
I think it was Leon.
Leon, that's it. Yeah, Leon from Livingston. Yeah.
And then don't forget, of course, there was Darius as well.
Darius.
He was in Pop Idol.
Yeah.
And then of course you had the first winner of Fame Academy was David Sneddon.
That's right. Yeah.
Scottish. He's become a very successful songwriter.
Yeah.
I do think you do get maybe one or two. I see what people are complaining about. I remember, on the last series, there was a Scot, there was an Irishman, there was, I'm sure there was Welsh as well. Everyone was kind of covered.
Yeah.
I think what they have to remember as well is that there's obviously restrictions again this year in terms of they've got to be in like a COVID bubble and stuff. So maybe getting from Scotland down to England wasn't as easy. And it makes things a bit more difficult in terms of being able to have a Scottish representation. Or it could be that they are just thinking, well, a Scot won it last year, we can't have another haggis munching kill. To be fair to Peter, pretty much every cake he baked had a Scottish twist on it, which was fantastic.
You're right.
It was really good to see. Like Bread Week, he made like a Forth Road Bridge out of bread and stuff, and it was incredible. He was very, even on it was like the first week you had to make like a mold of like one of your heroes and stuff, like a famous hero, and he made a cake and it was Chris Hoy, and it was like, that's lovely. Everything had to have like a Scottish part to it.
Okay.
It's fair enough. I did read a little bit about this today because I gleefully liked the outrage of the Daily Mail readers in terms of and it was very much, as you say, it's a very multicultural series this year because a lot of people from different places. So you can imagine it was just like, I thought this was the Great British Bake Off in capital letters, and then speaking about, is this what Brexit has got us? And someone say, like, gold star to whoever successfully completed this box ticking exercise. Get a grip.
Was it
fucking ridiculous? It's 2021.
I don't know if you noticed, but like, as much as it was what was his name? Where is it? Peter's victory. I was claiming it for Scotland. You know what I mean? We won it last year. They couldn't bear for us to win it 2 years in a row. But you have to latch on to these things. We don't win an awful lot, you know.
And it was lovely to see as well. I believe it was the National Television Awards a couple of nights ago, and the Bake Off won an award. And they had the contestants from last year's show there, like a few of them. Mm-hmm. And Peter was there, and he was in his kilt. And it was wonderful to see Peter in his kilt up there collecting the award. But yeah, no, it is. But it's a small victory, as you say. What have we got? To be fair, as I say, we've got David Sneddon, we've got Peter from the Bake Off, and we've got Leon from X Factor. Oh, Michelle McManus as well. Oh, yeah. Forgot about her. How could you forget about Michelle?
I know. She won the Pop Idol. Remember when she won it and Pete Waterman stormed off in a huff? She won it.
See, and it's because of her, probably, Susan Boyle didn't win Britain's Got Talent.
Maybe. I think she just wasn't Peter's idea of a pop star. And apparently it's nobody else's, and she hasn't had a record out in years, has she?
No, I think she's quite successful, though. I think it's like she's a radio DJ or something, isn't she? No, but
yeah, she did that. She had that Scottish lunch show with a guy that used to be a DJ in Radio Clyde, but like on the TV. I remember when she was on the campaign, I can't remember who she was. Was she not up against the two guys that ended up being like children's BBC presenters? I can't remember their names.
Oh, Jesus. Now, I was trying to think, who was she up against? I think, and you're right. Yeah. I mean, they weren't a double act in the show, were they? It was Sam and Mark.
Sam and Mark. I think she was up against Sam for the final.
The littler one.
Yeah, I think so. And
or the big one.
She was campaigning they were both campaigning before the final. And I used to work at a restaurant on Paisley Road in Glasgow at the time, and she came in for lunch with like people and stuff, because she was obviously, I think they probably would have sent Sam back to, I think he came from Newcastle, if I remember right. So Sam was no doubt campaigning around there, and she was obviously campaigning around Glasgow in Scotland. So she came in for her lunch, and in fact, no, actually he must have been up as well, because she asked the waiter, she said, do you have some cheese that you could give me so I could put it in his bus? It's a bit of an inside joke between him and I. So we gave her like a wee bag of grated mozzarella away with her. I mean, that's what she said it was for, Nicky. She could have just maybe she just wanted like a wee bit of cheese for the road. I don't know, but there was some joke that she was between her and Sam, and she wanted some to put on his bus. Yeah, that's right. They came to Glasgow together, and then they went to wherever he comes from in England together to do a bit of campaigning before the final show to get public votes.
Well, there we go. We now know Michelle McManus gets carry out cheese wherever she goes.
So that's my first Scottish story. Feeling sorry for ourselves yet again. What's your first story this week?
Well, it's been a while, Greg. It has been a while. We have had a bit of time off from Falkirk for a while.
We have, actually. It's been ages.
We're going to Falkirk. Motorists in Falkirk area have hit out at yobs who have been launching dog shit at passing cars, with one branding them Scotland's biggest dickheads. Now, before we go into this story, I will say I realise the dangers of this in the Swally, but how could we not cover this story? So, a number of vehicles are believed to have been hit from the Hamilton Road flyover on the M876 at Larbert over the weekend. Nobody was injured, and no accidents have happened as a result of the disgusting incidents, but locals have urged those responsible to stop before there's a bad smash. One man, who does not want to be named, said, I was driving back to Glasgow on Sunday afternoon after being at Vibration Festival in Falkirk for the weekend, and the next minute something smacked my windscreen. It was covered in brown stuff. I pulled over, and as soon as it got out, I could smell it was dog poo. I thought a dog owner might have inconsiderately flung it over the flyover, because that's what you do, isn't it? But when I looked back up, 3 lads were standing there laughing. I could see one of them getting ready to pelt another car. I tried calling the police, but the number was busy, and I was on hold for 10 minutes, so I hung up. It's clearly a very dangerous game to play, and it's only a matter of time before somebody gets killed. One angry driver took to Facebook saying, "The culprits that decided to take all the bags of dog poo from the bin and throw them onto cars on the motorway, you are officially Scotland's biggest dickheads." Another said this could cause a seriously nasty accident, not just by vehicle swerving, but also serious skid mark risks as well. A little joke there that I don't think the paper have picked up on properly. A third posted, "That's vile." Police Scotland spokesperson said, "We were made aware of items being thrown on the flyover near Larbert shortly after 7:35pm on Saturday, the 4th of September. Officers attended, but the group had dispersed. Such behaviour is irresponsible, and we would encourage anyone involved to consider the consequences of their actions." So, I would agree. It's not funny if it did. You're going to get a shock if you're driving down the road and a bag of shit hits your windscreen and you put on the wipers and it just smears brown shit all over. It is dangerous, especially if you're on the motorway. What strikes me is, I mean, it's kids having a bit of fun and a laugh.
Yeah.
But they've gone to that dog bin and collected bags of dog shit and taken them to the flyover to throw. And we're complaining that kids are all busy playing their Nintendos nowadays and stuff, or they're glued to their phones. This is old school fun. This is the type of shit I would have done when I was a kid. If you pardon the pun.
What, fish about in dog shit? Did they have dog shit bins when you were a kid?
No, dog shit was all white back in my day. I wouldn't have been fishing dog shit bins, but you know what I mean? Stupid stuff like this. Like, it would have been like water balloons or something, or, okay, it's not harmless fun because someone could get injured, but I just love the thought of these three Neds on the flyover just lobbing bags of shit at cars, cheering as they hit the windscreen.
It's like something out of chewing the fat or something, isn't it?
It's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah, it's something like that, these three guys. So if you are in Falkirk, just be careful in case your windscreen gets hit with a bag of shit. I'm just glad it was dog. It could have been worse. It could have been human.
I know. We can imagine like some guy with his tracksuit bottoms on his knees, arse hanging over the flyover, you know?
Just try to curl one out.
While his mate films it on his phone.
Well, that's it. I mean, that would make a great TikTok video, wouldn't it? Landing bombs away.
Yeah. Were they Iceland bags of shit? Any chance?
No. There's a photo on but I think it's a stock photo they've put on, and it is just a pile of dog bag.
Bagged up dog shit.
Yeah, exactly. From poo bags. So there must have been a special dog poo bin that they've raided. And, hey, it's COVID, so they've obviously not got much to do at the moment. Oh, we do love a bit of scat in the Swally.
We do like a good scatological tale. Yeah.
So, what else have you seen this week, Greg?
My next story is actually quite a nice story. We've not had like a nice story for a wee while, but before I tell it, I'm reminded of a tweet that I saw, I think, yesterday. Obviously, Glasgow has just been hosting the Transmit Festival there at the weekend, the Transmit Musical Festival. People who go to festivals regularly will know that you can't take in your own booze. They want you to spend money inside the festival grounds on the most expensive pint of Tennent's that you'll probably ever buy in your life. Somebody took a picture of a young guy who he had gone to the site of the festival, which was held at Glasgow Green at the weekend a few days ago before they started setting up, and he buried a bottle of Buckfast, which he then proceeded to dig up after he got inside the Transmit Festival. So I don't know who the guy was, but if I was wearing a hat, I'd take it off to you. That is good forward thinking on your part there, young man.
He's been in all the newspapers. It went viral, and he's been branded an absolute legend. So, good on him.
So from one feel-good story to another, my next story is about Lego. The headline reads, Billy Connolly Lego raises almost £10,000 for charity after it sold out. The collectible figures were a success, with customers who queued around the block to purchase the limited edition pieces. There's a wee picture here of Billy. Quite a good little Lego likeness of him. He's got his top half says Big Banana Feet, and somebody has sort of painted on the iconic banana shoes that you can see at the People's Palace in Glasgow on the bottom of the wee Lego man's feet. He's holding a microphone. So it says, Billy Connolly's wee big yins Lego figures have raised almost 10 grand for a Scots children's charity. The tiny figurines of the comedy legends were specially created by the Buchanan Galleries for the Glasgow Children's Hospital charity. There were 5 different versions of Sir Billy, reflecting the different stages of his career, comprising the musician yin, the biker yin, the actor yin, the artist yin, and the funny yin. Fans travelled from far and wide to purchase the limited edition Lego, with only 575 single funny yins and 57 of the full sets of all 5 having been made. It's now been revealed that 10 grand was raised for the Glasgow Children's Hospital charity, with 100% of the proceeds from the wee biggies going to kids across the city. The figures cost £10 each, or £50 for a set of 5, and some individual ones are now available on eBay for as much as 20 times the price, which I can tell you, I saw something online. Somebody was quite outraged about that online the other day, but you know, someone's always outraged about something online. So I know that you're like a bit of Lego, collectible Lego. I know you don't sit and play with it in the evenings, but you've got your Ecto 1, haven't you? It's not Ecto 1. It's the DeLorean you've got, isn't it, from Back to the Future?
No, it's Ecto 1. Yeah, that's the only bit of Lego that I've got.
Oh, is it?
The Ecto 1. I have thought, the firehouse I thought about getting, but that is ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
And something like that, you build it, you'd have to get a display case and put it in. I did see, they've released the Seinfeld set of Lego.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be nice. I'd like that. Seinfeld's probably one of my favourite shows of all time. What am I going to do with it? You build it.
Gallus dust.
And I remember building that Ecto 1. It was a bit of a pain in the arse, to be honest. Like, you're constantly searching for this one bit, and it does get quite annoying after a while.
Yeah.
I guess it's like doing a jigsaw. I have thought about it occasionally, but nah, I don't think I'd bother. But, so these are just little figures.
Just little figures, yeah.
Come with like a play set or anything. He doesn't come in like a Parkinson studio or with Judi Dench or anything or anything like that. No. Just the figures.
They're just different versions of him throughout his career. Just little minifigures. I know there's a Lego store in the Buchanan Galleries, so I think they've obviously the shopping centre and the shop have worked together to produce them. But yeah, no, they are quite cool. It'd be quite nice to have one of them. I used to have a Lego Joker keyring on my car keys, but they get a bit mangled after a while in your pocket, you know what I mean, banging against your keys and stuff. So I remember a mutual friend of ours, Aberdeen's newest property tycoon, Brett Clark, very kindly bought my daughters the Lego Simpsons house I think it was before I moved away to Kuwait, so it had been about 6 or 7 years ago, and they were a bit wee at that point for that sort of stage of Lego, so I ended up building it for them. It took me 2 days to build it. Some very obviously they wanted to play with it, so there was some clear kind of ground rules put in place for them to play with it, which to their credit, despite being so wee, they followed said ground rules. Took really good care of it. Then they had some mates round one day and it got fucking broken. And I don't think I've ever quite got over it. Because what happened, what my wife did, rather than get all the pieces and put it in a dedicated Lego Simpsons house tub, she just flung it into the fucking general Lego population. So I've attempted to rebuild it. Well, not for years, but like we moved to Kuwait, the kids would sometimes ask me if we could build it again. I've attempted to do it, but because all the pieces are mixed up with loads of other Lego sets, I've kind of given up each time.
Nightmare.
Yeah. So yeah, it's quite painful memory to recollect that, actually. So it's...
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Oh, well, very good. As you say, if people are selling them for inflated prices, hey, good on them for getting them. It's the people that are willing to pay the ridiculous money for them that's, stupid, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, what's your next story this week?
Well, I don't want to stick on the scatological manner, but we kind of are in a way. So this is from the Scottish Sun this week, and the headline is Lewd Behaviour. A public toilet on a Scots island are forced to be closed for a very strange reason. So, public toilets on the Isle of Mull, and it's in Aros Park in Tobermory in the Isle of Mull, a bizarre sign has appeared on the public toilets announcing their closure. This sign, and is an image taken by a member of the public, shows this sign, which is on the door, and the toilets are indeed closed. And the sign says, "These toilets are shut due to excessive dogging. Sorry for the inconvenience. Nearest toilets are at the Tobermory Harbour Building, and underneath is the official logo of the Land Department and the Isle of Mull Council. The sign's been typed up and it's been laminated, so it seems to be quite genuine. To be fair, excessive dogging has been written in marker pen. So it could just be a joke, but it doesn't, it's been laminated. So, apologies, they've been shot for excessive dogging. Pollyanna spotted this strange notice and posted a picture of it on Facebook on Friday, saying, I had a fantastic week in Tobermory, stayed in an amazing apartment in the harbour. My last day was made memorable by a walk to Arros Park. The post attracted over 150 likes, with dozens of people commenting, what level of dogging is considered to be excessive? I'm asking for a friend. Another commented, this is just my kind of place. Dogging is fine, just not too much, okay? And another added, how forward-thinking, toilets for dogs. That's not very funny. A forestry and land spokesperson said the toilets were closed because of a problem with the water supply. Clearly some local prankster has had too much time on their hands. We have replaced the vandalised site. So I would love the thought that this toilet was closed because of excessive dogging. But who on the Isle of Mull has decided that, and it maybe is a standard sign, these toilets are shut due to, and they fill it in themselves. So it would say damaged pipes, water thing, but someone scrubbed it out and put excessive dogging. How much dogging is excessive, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, it's not something that I've ever been involved in, but
I think I only heard of dogging when Stan Collymore was caught dogging. And that was kind of what took dogging to the kind of public light in the UK, I think, wasn't it?
Did the actor who plays Phil Mitchell in EastEnders not get into trouble for dogging at one point or get caught in a sort of dogging area? I feel I read about that.
I don't know. Let's just say, Steve McFadden, we're not saying you were caught dogging. We would need to double check that.
Let's double check it.
Let's say no for now, but we will just check that. I know Stan Collymore was caught, and that was kind of when dogging came to mind. And then I did think, you used to see all those cars in the woods up at Hazelhead. I wonder if they were dogging. I mean, we were up there because we were smoking pot in the cars, but I don't know what the other people were getting up to. We never looked. We should have.
I can.
We never flashed the lights, though.
I can confirm. I just found an article from the Daily Mirror in 2005, which reads, dogging Steve's job is safe. EastEnders star Steve McFadden set to save his job despite being exposed as a dogging pervert. These are the words of the Daily Mirror, Steve McFadden. They are not the words of the Swally. Yeah, the BBC vowed to...
Dogging pervert.
Dogging pervert. They said his ex-girlfriend, they called Angela Bostock, who's also the mother of his two children, alleged that over a 10-year period... So dogging's obviously been around for a while. This article was 2005. Over a 10-year period, he enjoyed having sex in public, watched by strangers. So there you go. Old Phil.
Yeah, I might read that again, actually. I did read Stan Collymore's autobiography many years ago, and I'm sure he does cover the dogging aspect in that. Yeah, he does cover it. Yeah, he's quite open and honest about it. So I might go back and read that bit, just the bit about the dogging, obviously.
As much as it's not something I've ever done, they obviously know how dogging works, and you got to think none of the parties involved are really doing anybody any harm. Are they really? I don't think that.
I guess the most damage you're probably going to do is if you're really going at it vigorously and you knock the wing mirror or something.
Yeah.
And, you break the glass.
Yeah.
Because some of the old cars, like the wing mirror, if it bounces back, if you just hit it with a stray flick of the wrist,
stiletto or something,
then it could, it could go horribly wrong. I guess no one's really getting hurt, are they?
I mean, a bit of jizz on your velour seats, perhaps, but I'm sure it'll sponge out.
Yeah. So are we saying that at the Swally we are not endorsing as such, but we're behind dogging, are we?
No, I don't think so. I think we're just saying that we're all right with it. we don't cast any judgment on those involved in dogging, unlike the Daily Mirror of 2005, clearly.
The only other thing that I've seen this week, and it wasn't so much the start of the article, this was from the Daily Record this week, and Aldi are now selling Iron Brew pakoras that come with so it's a chicken breast with an authentic Indian chili dip and it's with an iron brew batter. Now, we've covered kind of stuff like this before on the Swally in terms of this, but at the bottom of the article, it's just kind of a throwaway mention as well, and this for me was better than the pakora. Aldi are about to start selling Scotland's smelliest cheese, renowned for its nutty and smooth taste, but perhaps better known for its pungent smell. What do you think this cheese is called, Greg?
The mind boggles. I have no idea.
They've literally called this cheese Minger.
Fuck's sake.
It's produced by Highland Fine Cheeses, and for 250 grams of Minger, it'll cost you £2.29. Available in Aldi. Yeah, can I have I'll have 250 grams of Minger, please. Smelliest cheese in Scotland.
Yeah.
That's a great name. Come on. You can have that with your iron brew pakora.
Yeah, see when you're out, can you bring home some Minger? Minger, my life.
I know, lovely cheese, lovely name for a cheese. I'll have to try some Minger. I wonder if they wouldn't sell it here. I would not imagine. I'll have to see if next time. Well, you're in Scotland, so you can get hold of some Minger and an iron brew pakora.
Oh, yeah.
Have you got an Aldi near you?
Yeah, probably. I think there's one in Kilsyth. There's either an Aldi or a Lidl in Kilsyth, which isn't too far away. I'll check with my auntie. She lives in Kilsyth, so
magic. Well, maybe on the next episode of the Swally we can have a review of Minger, or at least an iron brew pakora.
Yeah, a review of some Minger. I'll get my auntie to go down and pick it up.
Anything else from your side?
No. It's been quite a good news week. All in. All the boxes.
It's been alright, quite light-hearted.
We've had outrage, we've had open air sex, we've had a good shit story, and a good feel-good story, and an amusingly named food product, which pretty much is the entire Swally gambit.
And one of them was from Falkirk. There we go.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Falkirk for the bonus ball.
Right, well, before we delve into the review, let's have a little word from our sponsor.
The Evening News birth section is the natural way to find out who's been born to whom, where, even how many. And when you become a proud parent, it's the obvious way to tell everybody local the good news.
If it's in the news, it's in the news.
Make sure of your delivery, 6 days a week.
So it was your choice to choose our content this week, Nikki, so why don't you introduce your choice?
Thank you very much, Greg. I will. Well, the reason I picked this film is because I'd never seen it, and I'd read about it a couple of times, and I was very aware of the subject matter, but yeah, for some reason this film had passed me by, which is something I seem to be saying quite a lot in the Swally recently, but I think it's because a lot of the films we've been doing have kind of been of a similar era as well. So, today I would like to discuss The Wee Man, which is a 2013 Scottish gangster film, directed by Ray Burdis and starring Martin Compston, John Hannah, Stephen McCall and Patrick Bergin. The film is based on the true story of notorious Glasgow gangster Paul Ferris. It follows Ferris's life as a young boy and growing up to be taken under the wing of Glasgow's godfather, Arthur Thompson, rising through the ranks in Glasgow's gangland wars. So, as I mentioned, first time I'd seen this film, Greg, but obviously I was aware of it, and I was aware of Martin Compston's work, and I'm aware of Paul Ferris as well. But you've seen this before, reviewing for the Swally, had you?
Yeah, I'd seen it a couple of times before. I saw it when it came out, but not long after it came out. I've actually got it on DVD. I picked it up. I can't remember for the life of me where I bought it. But yeah, so I've seen it a couple of times before. And I'm also quite aware of all the Paul Ferris, Arthur Thompson stuff. I read Paul Ferris's book years and years and years ago when I first moved back to Glasgow, called The Ferris Conspiracy, which was written with Reg Mackay, local Glasgow crime writer that we'll maybe come on to later on. The title of the book sort of says everything about Paul Ferris, and it's a notion that is very much furthered in this film. I think that, you know, he's always sort of painted himself as a kind of poor victim of circumstance, and this movie, whilst it takes like some quite big liberties with the events that it's based on, which it kind of has to, because the events that it's based on, you know, are not particularly glamorous or exciting. Yeah, I can imagine it's exactly the movie. If Paul Ferris, when he was in prison, was ever thinking, I wonder if they'll ever make a movie about my life one day, and imagining what it would be like, I imagine this film was exactly what he would have envisioned back then. So
yeah, because he is painted as a very... Oh, sorry, what were you going to say there?
No, go ahead. I was going to ask you if you enjoyed the film, but just go ahead with your point.
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed the film.
Yeah.
It's good to watch. I mean, and, of course, anything Scottish. We'll get on to the performances later, but the actors, if you're giving me Martin Compston and Stephen McCall and John Hannah, then I'm going to enjoy the film that it's in. I thought it was good. I watched it twice with the Swally, and I would say I did enjoy it both times. It was interesting. It did have me engaged.
Yep.
I would say, yes, it's very sympathetic towards Paul Ferris, and it paints him, as you say, as almost, a victim of kind of circumstance. In the film, he never actually really does he does, one instance when he's younger, but in the later years you never actually see him really do anything as such in terms of so it's almost maybe when
the mass shooting
go to the Banks brothers the mass shooting, he's involved in that but other than that, it's kind of almost like he was just there or involved, whereas that's not really the true kind of story of Paul Ferris. By all accounts, he was very much involved in quite a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, by his own admission, I watched. I guess not that recent. I think it's quite old. But what's his name? Irish guy. He used to do the undercover. Donald McIntyre did it. There's one which is about sort of crime in Glasgow, but it's kind of hung around. It's sort of hung on Paul Ferris's story, and Ferris is with him. Being interviewed and being a bit mysterious when asked certain questions about who assaulted who or who killed who and things like that. And the one thing that he said in it was, he said I don't think there's such thing as a good criminal. He said if there is such thing as a good criminal, then they're the ones that have never ever been caught. So and I've seen Paul Ferris around a few times, like when I worked in Glasgow years ago when I worked in the restaurant. Occasionally he was in a restaurant now and again, and he was just a regular guy, very polite and pleasant to the staff. He wasn't like an arse. Like I've seen some other people that have been around that kind of circle that behave like absolute pricks when they go out into restaurants and stuff. So
are you saying like Michelle McManus?
She's not involved in the Glasgow underworld as far as we know. They have seen some guys that are sort of reputed to be in that kind of world that act like absolute arses when they go out for a meal or whatever. And to be fair to Ferris, he wasn't like that at all, but I know that since he got released from prison, he's been involved in quite a lot of legitimate businesses and stuff, and certainly on that documentary you saw him at home, and he's got a very, very nice house by the looks of things, which I can't imagine he would have been able to buy with the proceeds of his dirty dealings. But I still think he likes to have at least a couple of toes in that world for the sake of appearances. You know what I mean? I think he likes his own. He enjoys his own mythology when it suits him.
Well, he's released 5 books, and
exactly.
He does always seem to do interviews a lot.
Yeah.
And in the most recent interview, because they are making another film about his story,
right,
which is the reason that we're kind of doing this, because it was revealed that Paul Brannigan is going to play him in the new film. And I watched an interview with Paul Ferris from just last year, and they were announcing that they were doing this kind of second film. And he did say, I don't think we'll get Martin Compston now. Like, I think he's probably going to be a bit too expensive for us, because, obviously Compston has effectively gone on to become like a BBC darling. After Line of Duty and things. I don't know what that says for Paul Brannigan now that he's cast him. But you get the idea that Ferris is, it's going to be more of like a docu film, in terms of it's going to be like part film, part documentary, which I imagine Ferris will probably feature heavily as a talking head.
Sure.
He wants to co-direct it as well. So you do get the idea that Paul Ferris does, he wants to be involved, and as you say, he likes the sound of his own voice by the sound of things, and likes to get stuff across. Paul, if you're listening to this, I think you're great. Don't come after me. But you do get the sense of he has got his own importance that he thinks he should be the focal point of things.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, he's never shown any sort of contrition for any of the stuff that he's done. You know what I mean? He's, when you see him being interviewed and things, he talks about, that's just business. It's the way it was, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he mentioned a guy who he had stabbed on the orders of Arthur Thompson, who it turned out that it was the wrong guy that Arthur had asked him to stab, and he's like, that guy, he's just a casualty, and to be fair, I don't know how much of that sort of perceived lack of contrition is again just playing up for the cameras. Maybe in his quieter moments, if you've spent like a good part of your life in prison for crimes that you committed, you're going to feel a bit, I can't believe that you're going to look back with no regrets. Do you know what I mean on that?
And that's the thing, as you say, in this film, it comes across completely differently in terms of Paul Ferris in it is very much no civilians.
I know, yeah.
And no one got hurt. And you're like, that's bullshit. So obviously the film wasn't even filmed in Glasgow.
No.
It was filmed in London, because Strathclyde Police and Glasgow City Council wouldn't allow permission for them to film it in Glasgow, because it didn't paint the police in a very good light. And I think they were probably a bit uncomfortable about it painting Paul Ferris in such a holy light as well.
And you got to imagine that, for Police Scotland, as they are now, they're not going to want to be part of what they will see as, kind of glamorizing anybody in this film, because obviously all the parts are based, all the leads are based on actual people, real people. The only one of which who is still around is Paul Ferris. Arthur Thompson died. Well, we see him die of a heart attack in the film. Obviously, his son and Frank McGraw died of a heart attack about 10 or 15 years ago as well. So there's nobody of the kind of the main figures in the movie to sort of talk to, to kind of answer anything to this. So really, like Ferris kids, if he's been a script consultant on this movie, he can tell them anything he wants about those guys and about himself, And
I think it's a shame that it wasn't filmed in Glasgow. And I read an interview with Martin Compston that came out around about the time of the release, and he did say his dismay at that as well.
Yeah.
But the main reason that he was upset that it wasn't filmed in Glasgow, and it's a very valid point, is they've had to move to London. So think of all these Scottish crew workers that are losing out on a wage packet.
Yeah.
And I mean, he wasn't effectively saying we're giving it to these London English boys, but do you know what I mean? It is, you're pumping money back into the country and into the city by doing that and employing these people. Surely it makes sense. But I can see their viewpoint of, as you say, because this does paint a very sympathetic view of Paul Ferris, and maybe Glasgow wanted to disassociate themselves with that and take a step back.
He doesn't get a lot of media attention from the Scottish media, really. Whenever there's a documentary about crime in Glasgow that's been made by an English or an overseas production company, that's when he tends to pop up. He occasionally pop up in a newspaper. Well, I don't know about now because I've not lived here for fucking years, but in the past he'd occasionally turn up about something related to something or other, But for the most part, the Scottish media really just kind of ignore him, unless of course he's in the news for something that he shouldn't have done or said or whatever,
So the structure of the film, it does jump about quite a bit in terms of it goes back to his childhood, then you see him in prison in kind of like the 89, 90, I think, and then it jumps to him getting out of prison, and it's not quite clear initially. So it does jump around a fair bit and could be a little bit confusing. I mean, I watched this with my wife actually, and she was a little bit confused as well because the dates don't come up until slightly later. And then you're kind of wondering the scenes when he's in prison, and watching it the second time, it became a lot clearer. Okay, it's this. We don't actually know what he was in prison for at that time, though. We know he did 9 months, but it's never actually explicitly said what he was in prison for. So obviously, to speak about, if we take this in chunks and we go to his childhood, first of all, obviously there's one part of this that I don't want to discuss.
Of course.
My wife actually said, "Why are you making me watch this?" And I said, "I did not realise this was in it." It's when the dog dies. And I don't want to discuss that at all.
No.
To speak about his childhood, very good child actor. Oh my God, Dennis. I'm about to say Nielsen again.
Dennis Lawson.
But we'll say Lawson. He is fantastic as his dad. Like, he's such a kind, lovely gentleman. Now, Paul Ferris's dad was a bank robber.
That's right.
And was in jail for a lot of Paul Ferris's childhood. So I'm not quite sure where this picture comes from, but having Dennis Lawson as your father and Claire Grogan as your mother, oh my God, could you wish for better parents?
I know. I mean, there is a bit of poetic license, because I remember reading in the book that it was mainly just him and his mum and his brother Billy and his younger sister until his brother Billy went to prison. There's not a lot of mention about his dad, but he does mention in that documentary with Donald McIntyre that his dad robbed the post office, the post office or the bank at Ridgely, which is the closest to Barlinnie prison, and that's where all the prison guards payroll was processed, all the wages came from, and so they all never got their wages that weekend at Barlinnie. But yeah, I mean, Dennis Lawson is a phenomenal actor, and I don't see him. I mean, the last thing I saw him in was he obviously famously played Wedge in the Star Wars, the original trilogy, and the last thing I saw him in was like a blink and you'll miss it pop up at the end of the last Star Wars film when the big sort of space armada all kind of shows up. I mean, I think obviously we'll do a local hero at some point in the future, but he's a brilliantly charismatic actor, and the kind of dynamic between him and Claire Grogan as Mr. and Mrs. Ferris is absolutely brilliant. I don't know if I buy all the scene at the beginning when wee Paul's looking out the window watching the police giving somebody a tanking, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, the monsters," and all that. And that, I think that's when you realise that the script might be a bit wishy-washy for this film. Maybe not the script per se, but the dialogue certainly.
Yeah, that part I could have done without. But the dynamic of him and Claire Grogan when he's hungover and shaving in the kitchen sink and stuff, and then of course the little playfulness they have together of when he's like, "If you see my wallet, and what do you need your wallet for? Are you going to the pub?" It's very nice the way it is, and the line that he delivers when they're walking down the street with are we going to call him Paul Ferris or are we going to call him Martin Compston for the purposes of this review?
Well, doesn't it?
We'll just call him Martin Compston when we're speaking about it. Yeah. When they're walking down the street together and he says, "Everything all right, son?" "Yeah, fine, Dad." And he's like, "Well, just inquiring about that fucking carving knife you've got in your trousers."
Well, how's it going, son?
Hi, all right.
You're okay?
Fine, Dad.
You sure? You still having trouble with the Banks brothers?
How'd you guess?
Couldn't help but notice a fucking great carving knife in your pockets, though.
Oh, that?
Oh, yes, that.
The way it's delivered, it's so good, and you really like his character. And even later on in the film, when he gets assaulted, that's probably the second part of the film that I was like, "Oh no, don't do this," because he's such a lovable character, and he just seems so nice and so lovely. Do you think that's what Paul Ferris has probably painted in his head, as this is what my ideal dad would be like?
Yeah, probably. The whole shaving in the sink thing, I feel like we might have spoken about this before in the Swally, but my granda shaved in the kitchen sink, his whole life. And I never understood why. Like, there was a bathroom, like indoor bathroom, with a sink and everything, but for whatever reason, he always just shaved at the kitchen sink and got washed and everything. Like, he did all his morning ablutions at the kitchen sink. But yeah, I mean, I think that whole scene, coming back to the movie, they have to have Paul's dad getting a doing, so you're sort of on Paul's side for what comes next. Yeah. And the fact that, to your point, it's Dennis Lawson, he plays the part with such charisma and charm and likability, it just enforces that message, As
I say, it jumps around a lot, so it's difficult to kind of go in a linear way. But of course, then the kind of middle scenes when he witnesses the execution, 18 years old or so. Okay. I mean, you've got the execution, of course, which is pretty bad in terms of seeing that, and then when he gets the money, that's quite exciting. But what I would say is the kind of the first maybe oh my god point is when he's at the party and the Banks brothers come in and he fucks off back to get the knife. And as soon as he left the party, my wife turned to me and said, "He's going to get that knife." I was like, "I think?" And then he comes back and just goes fucking John Wick and actually fucking scalps one of the guys. Like, quite horrific. And I'm presuming he never got caught. And then, of course, that's the other thing. Joy McAvoy just pops up as his sister. It's never really explained who she is. He's just in this random woman's house and she's, "Oh, Paul, you don't want to end up your brother." I'm really glad she's progressed well in her acting into Two Doors Down. She's not very good in this film and is a very small part, but Did it need that scene?
To be charitable to her, her lines that she's been given are fucking dreadful. Like they're I can see demons in your eyes and all this nonsense. I mean, this is the same year that she did Filth, which obviously was a much bigger role for her. But again, I think there's some parts of the dialogue in the script in this movie which are just fucking dreadful. That being one of the worst parts. But the other bit that bugged me was another flashback bit when he's thinking back to his two pals, and they're talking about how they're going to live in golden castles and they're going to be kings. And all this. Yeah, it's just, come on. But the scalping thing, I knew that was coming when I saw the film because I'd read, he talks about that in his book. But if I remember, it's been nearly 20 years since I read the book, but if I remember correctly, he was about that age, but it wasn't a kitchen knife. He had a Bowie knife, like Rambo's knife, and that's what that's what he used to scalp the unfortunate Brother Banks. And he was talking in that documentary about how Banks's mother stuck his head out the window so he wouldn't bleed all over her carpet while she was waiting for the ambulance to arrive, apparently. So,
oh well, at least part of that's true then, if that is what actually happened.
Yeah.
So to talk about the cast, because we've spoken about Dennis Lawson, so let's move into the kind of main area of the film. So we have Martin Compston as Paul Ferris. Now we've seen him in a couple of things before. We covered on the Swally, of course. He was in Filth. He was in
Barney Thompson.
Sweet 16, which is the main one, and Barney Thompson. Yeah. But this is the second film we've covered that it's kind of a main role for him, and you see how he has developed as an actor. And you can't fault him really in this film. He is very good. I mean, it's almost kind of similar-ish to Sweet 16 in a way. The whole, kind of young boy gets kind of drawn into, and spoiler alert, I'll watch Sweet 16 any day ahead of this.
Yeah.
But he is very good. And he is very convincing, and you do kind of believe what he's saying. He does play a good role. I mean, his acting has progressed since then to now even, but you can't really fault his performance, and it is effectively what he's been given to deal with.
Exactly. I mean, he had 2 line of duties under his belt by the time he filmed this. So he was, like when we saw him in Sweet 16, he was at the very beginning of his career, whereas he's fairly well established by the time this part came up. And apparently he was saying when he was being interviewed about the film that he'd always fancied playing Paul Ferris because growing up in Greenock, not a million miles away from Glasgow, he knew the story. But he said he had read that Robert Carlyle was going to play the part a few years before when he himself knew that he was too young. And then I guess that project never got off the ground, and his chance came round again. I mean, you're right. I think he is good in it. He's particularly good, I think, in the roles where he has to be threatening, where he has to be aggressive and whatnot. I think he sells that pretty well, and there's probably he probably knows he's probably knew some pretty kind of tough guys and stuff when he was a kid, kind of growing up there. But you nailed it when you said before, like the scripts, some of the lines that he's given, particularly when he's talking about civilians, it feels awfully American. That I can't imagine any Scottish gangster referring to people who weren't involved in the underworld as civilians. It's a wee bit like, and we'll come on to it in a minute, but all of Junior Thompson's like Godfather and Mafia references, which are by all accounts that was how he was. But no, he's good, and he's a physical guy, Martin Compston, and have you noticed how in almost every Scottish production he's in, he manages to get a chance to show off his footballing ability. It's a scene in Sweet 16 when he's kicking the ball about with wee Callum on the seafront, and then there's a scene in this when he's kicking the ball about with his son.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I never noticed that. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Very true. Right, let's get out the way. So I never realised Arthur Thompson was Irish. So Patrick Bergin as Arthur Thompson, and he just makes no... I mean, we can't really say anything because, of course, we're a big advocate of Sean Connery, and, of course, he plays the best Irishman in the world in The Untouchables. Patrick Bergin is just like, fuck it, no, I'm just going to be doing... He might as well be going, oh, Bagora, what we doing here, my lad? You can't be doing that, my lad. I mean, he doesn't make any attempt to hide his Irish accent.
I mean, I don't know. I felt like when he had to sort of talk kind of quietly and menacingly, he was better. His accent is piss poor, but to be fair to, I thought it was a wee bit better when he was being threatened. But whenever he had to raise his voice, to your point, there was not even a hint of a Scottish accent there. And there's a line that, I mean, if this was in the script or whether he has ad-libbed it, I've no idea. But he says after the first attempt at the Bankses, in which Paul and Fat Boy have to drive away at high speed, and they come back to the pub to tell Arthur what's happened. He says, well, they're well and truly shitting themselves the new.
They're well and truly shitting themselves the new. They've locked themselves away and are refusing to come out. You should have taken them out when you had the opportunity, Paul.
And I'm just like, oh, come on. I mean, Patrick Bergin is a good actor, and I think he looks the part. He doesn't look anything like Arthur Thompson, and he's far too much of a good-looking guy to look like Arthur Thompson. But but he does look the part of a sort of older criminal controlling stuff from the pub, and the dynamic between him and Stephen McCall as his son is good. But when you see the woman who plays his wife, like Mrs. Thompson. She looks about twice his fucking age. So she does.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she does look a lot older than him, like really a lot older.
Yeah.
And that's it. As you say, he is believable as this kind of Glasgow, not godfather as such, but this elder kind of, you can buy him as that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. In terms of, his wife is, twice his age. And it's just the accent that puts it off for me. And like I say, he's very good in the film, and he's believable, and he does have that little streak. And you see, in terms of I think it's the meeting between him and Martin Compston after Martin Compston's got out of jail, and they meet in the car park, and he does deliver this kind of speech, and very believable in terms of there. And you do kind of get the tension there. And as he drives off, Martin Compston's like, it wasn't him. He didn't set me up. And you do have the believability in that. I just wish he'd attempted a bit of a Scottish accent in some ways, but yeah. I'm going to go to John Hannah now because I'm purposefully leaving Stephen McCall till last.
Okay.
So John Hannah as Tam McGraw, and again, John Hannah, big Scottish actor.
Yep.
Did it ever really happen for John Hannah? I mean, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, he blew up.
Yep.
He became, massive after that. And then, of course, he was in Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow, which actually, slight guilty pleasure of mine.
Yeah,
I quite like that.
It's a good movie. I always like the concept of sliding doors. I mean, to be fair to John Hannah, I think probably the biggest things I think he's done in terms of commercial success is that he was in all those mummy films with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz.
Of course, yeah.
And I mean, those movies are sort of take them for what they are. I think the first one's actually quite a good film. I think it's the usual rule of diminishing returns from later on. But I remember seeing the first one at the cinema and quite enjoying it. But I think the other big success for him is the Spartacus TV show that he did 2 series of, like the incredibly bloody and violent and sexy Spartacus show. But I think probably you're right. I think the kind of mid-90s. You think maybe Ewan McGregor has maybe eclipsed them. Do you think maybe some parts that Ewan McGregor ended up doing might have gone to like The Pillow Book or stuff like that?
I don't know. I guess John Hannah obviously came to prominence in terms of 4 Weddings, where he played a very particular character.
Yeah.
But then, as you say, probably 2 years later, Ewan McGregor then
Shallow Grave
plays another very particular character and kind of eclipses and becomes the hot young.
Yeah.
Because I guess 4 Weddings, it was all about Hugh Grant. But John Hannah, in my opinion, did get a lot of credit for his role in that.
The scene at where he reads out the poem at the funeral is it's brilliant.
Huge.
Incredibly affecting, emotional scene that he leads in what is essentially a bit of a broad romantic comedy, you know?
Oh yeah, forever, and I'll always remember, John Hannah delivered "Stop All the Clocks." That's the one. That is the poem, and remember that it's so powerful. Mm-hmm. I think he's had a good, he played Rebus for
he did. He did
a few years, I think. I couldn't take him serious as this hard gangster, Tam McGraw. And really, if you're going to be threatened by someone, Patrick Bergin, I can probably imagine being a bit like, sorry for spilling your pint, mate, sorry. John Hannah, I don't know. I mean, when he does attack that compere with a champagne bottle, and he does say, now that was fucking funny, that's good. So maybe you could believe him as like a little kind of sinister, hard man, but I don't know, I'm just not buying it.
He is from Edinburgh, and as the guys in Chewing the Fat once said, very memorably, hard man for Edinburgh. You can't get a hard man for Edinburgh. I agree it's difficult to buy him as the sort of Tam McGraw gangster, but he does bring something, I think, to the scenes and that he's in. And Tam McGraw, by all accounts, was reputed to be somebody who was quite powerful and had made a lot of money illegally, but who wasn't who purposefully stayed away from the kind of like the more violent aspects of his chosen profession. By reputation, that could be a lot of bollocks. It's just obviously what you hear.
Now that I can believe, and that I can understand, and I can get, because he is kind of more of a manipulative character. Because he does have Paul Ferris on his side. He's got Arthur Thompson Jr. on his side. He's, as we find out towards the end, it's been in collusion with Arthur Thompson. Effectively the whole time. He does have, and to be fair, actually towards the end, when Paul Ferris is in jail and he comes in to kind of do the big reveal, and he loses it, you do kind of believe in a way his unhingedness there. That's him kind of letting it out. And actually, brilliant acting towards the end when he's on the plane to Tenerife. He's, actually, you know what? I'm changed my mind. John Hannah's brilliant in this film.
Take it all back.
I like John Hannah in this film.
The part he plays, and I don't know if you ever watched those Spartacus things. I suspect that you didn't, knowing that it doesn't really fall into your wheelhouse. But
you know my taste.
Yeah, but he plays the owner of the sort of gladiator school. All these guys that have been forced to be gladiators. He's got aspirations to be part of the kind of higher social class in Roman society. He's manipulative. He's ruthless. Occasionally very violent. Occasionally a total fucking shitebag as well. He plays the part really, really well. Maybe that prepared him for a more subtle portrayal of those qualities than was Tam McGraw and the Wee Man. So I guess what you've been waiting for is talk about Stephen McCall, I guess, right? Have we missed somebody, have we?
How fucking good is Stephen McCall?
Yes, brilliant.
Like, he's so good. He's just such a good actor. And in this film, he's brilliant. I want more Stephen McCall.
Yeah.
I know Arthur Fatboy Thompson Jr. is a horrible character.
Yeah.
But Stephen McCall is just fantastic. And I think it's maybe because we've just covered him last episode in Barney Thompson.
Yeah.
Just to see the difference in character and the range. And it's, I want more Stephen McCall in my life. He's so good.
Yeah.
And he steals the film for me. As a character, probably a dream to play in terms of just being this hyped up, a coward kind of daddy's boy, but trying to act the hard man. He's not a hard man at all, though, is he?
No. I think he gets, like all the actors in this movie, like some of the lines they're given to say, as we've discussed earlier on, are fucking just rubbish. But because of the way he plays the character, so like when he's saying things, when he's in the car with Ferris and he's saying things like, I want their fucking eyes in a jar. Because of how he's established that character to be, as you just described, this wannabe fucking next in line for the big seat Godfather of Glasgow guy that's obsessed with all these American mafia movies and stuff. You can sort of imagine the character saying that sort of nonsense anyway, Whereas if like Martin Compston had that to say as Paul Ferris, you'd be like, right, this script is fucking dreadful. But it's testament to his ability as an actor that he can take these wishy-washy lines and deliver them convincingly as that fat boy character, you know?
I think, though, his introduction sets the tone. First time you see him, he's sat at the table with a guy in front of him.
Yeah.
Martin Compston walks over and he shows him a can of CS gas and says, "Do you know what this is?" He goes, CS gas. And he just sprays it in the guy's eyes.
Yeah.
Who runs out the pub in agony. And instantly you're like, okay, this guy's a little bit unhinged.
Yeah.
But as you say, he delivers those lines exactly as you said, that I want their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And when they go to get the 50 grand from the guy in the string vest.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, Paul Ferris is a master negotiator. You know, give you a week, it's fine. Don't worry about it. You know, everyone will be fine. I'm a nice guy. I'll take care of you. It's all okay. And then Fat Boy just comes up. "Do not thank me, cunt." Slices him with a razor.
Yeah.
Again, that line in the wrong hands could have been a little bit hammy. It's believable. And Steve McCall was fantastic. Obviously, massive coke head, but in real life, apparently a massive smack head. Which
I believe so, yeah.
Wouldn't have lended itself to the film quite so well, I would imagine.
yeah. Heroin addicts aren't quite as animated as a rule.
No.
It does have one of what I think is one of the best lines in the movie, and I suspect that it's probably ad-libbed, and it's after he just does a big fart in the pub, and he says, "Better an empty house than a bad tenant."
Can you believe the modesty of this guy? Takes out half the opposition single-handed and calls it rumours. I like your style, Paul. I really do. Better an empty house than a bad tenant, eh, Paul?
I'm here to see your father.
The Godfather.
You know, if that was in the script, then yeah, fair enough. But I feel like that was maybe a wee ad lib.
What, judging by the rest of the script?
Exactly.
I imagine it was an ad lib. It doesn't seem like it was written. Yeah, you're right. It probably was. I don't know. There was a couple of good lines and a couple of things, but yeah. You're right, maybe some of it was ad-lib there. But yeah, he's very believable, and I'm led to believe that he dressed, the real-life Junior, dressed more in tracksuits rather than suits. So I wouldn't imagine he was so obsessed with the Godfather as, or maybe he was, in terms of the real-life character. But
I mean, I'm trying to recall, I probably should have reread the book, but I feel like Reg Mackay, who we mentioned earlier, unfortunately passed away in 2009. At a relatively young age, but he was a former social worker who then became a writer of both fictional and true crime in Scotland and in Glasgow. And I've read a couple of his books. I've read his book about Arthur Thompson, and I've read obviously the Ferris Conspiracy. I feel like I've read one or two other ones as well. And I'm sure that they write about Arthur Jr. as being very obsessed with crime films. Maybe not The Godfather as such, but you know, I mean, at that era, sort of early 90s, you can imagine that, you know, he's probably going to be into movies like Goodfellas and probably The Godfather, you know, because it is a classic. I
would have thought it was more kind of Scarface.
The
way he's portrayed in the film.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe
Scarface might have been more appropriate, but
yeah,
I don't know, maybe.
Don't know. But you're right. Stephen McCall is brilliant. And I remember feeling really pleased when because I didn't know an awful lot about who was in the film when I first watched it. Apart, obviously, Martin Compston was on the cover of the DVD. I think Patrick Bergin's name was on the banner as well. So when Stephen McCall appeared on screen as Fat Boy, I remember feeling quite pleased about that, thinking, all right, okay, I could probably watch this to the end.
I was more delighted to see a young Triple H as one of his bodyguards that he tells to fuck off. He looks exactly like a young Triple H with a blonde ponytail. Spot on. So, to talk about the Glasgow send-off that he gets, I believe it's one in the head and one up the arse.
Yeah.
Is that a general... Is that correct?
Apparently it's true. The only reason that I know that is true is because I remember watching a documentary about crime in Glasgow, and, you know, they talk about like the ice cream wars and the Paul Ferris, Arthur Thompson stuff, and I remember that being described as a genuine, not necessarily as a Glasgow send-off, because, you know, if you get shot in the arse or up the arse with a shotgun, you know, I think it can probably go either way depending on the spread of the pellets and whether you pull through or not, but apparently it is something that happens in the echelons of the Glasgow underworld.
So obviously Paul Ferris was found not guilty guilty of the murder of Arthur Thompson Jr. And they make that very clear in the film in terms of the person that shoots him is about a foot taller than Martin Compston and speaks in a very gruff voice.
Yeah.
Do you think they did that on purpose? That's Paul Ferris saying, I didn't do it. Do you think he did it?
I wouldn't like to say either way. I mean, I'm in Scotland. Don't forget. We don't know who this is. I mean, you know,
this episode comes out, I think, the day you fly back.
Okay. I don't know, to be honest. I think Paul Ferris might like everybody to think that he might have done it. You know, in the book, there are some, you know, like it's sort of written as just a regular autobiography. When I was this age, I went and did this X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. But there are some little passages that are in italics that describe people being shot, the shooting of Arthur Thompson Jr. being one such little passage. And it's sort of inferred in the book, I guess, that, you know, it felt like it was kind of inferred that Ferris himself had carried out all these shootings that are described in these little italic passages, but without, you know, because it, you know, I think you're supposed to think, well, you know, how would he know? Because it's not written like, it's like those little italic passages are written like a wee story, like, you know, like Arthur Thompson got out the car and was walking, blah blah blah, and the shooter arrived wearing like a ski mask and a whatever, and, you know, fired, etc. So, I don't know.
So, this is basically the same as the OJ book, If I Did It, in which he effectively describes if he was to commit the murders, how he would have done it. Is that Paul Ferris's kind of way of saying, I did it, or if I did it, I would have done this?
I suspect that Paul Ferris probably knows who shot Arthur Thompson Jr. Like, you know what I mean? I'm sure that probably a lot of people know exactly who shot him. It will never ever be revealed because those things, you know, just they never are. I mean, there was a guy called Billy McPhee he worked for Tam McGraw, and in 2002 he had been watching Rangers at Ibrox. He came back to Bayliston or somewhere, and he was watching the rugby. I think Scotland were playing rugby later on that day in a Brewers Fair on a Saturday afternoon, and somebody ran in and stabbed him to death about 25 times.
Wow.
And ran out again. And by all accounts, the guy that stabbed him wasn't wearing anything. It made no effort to conceal his face. Apparently, I don't know if this is true, but apparently he scattered hair and other bits and bobs around the scene from other people to confuse the police, because it would leave multiple DNA traces around, and made his escape. And, you know, I don't think the person who committed that murder has ever been identified or charged or convicted. And you got to imagine a Brewers Fair on a Saturday afternoon, probably packed, right? And nobody gave the police any information whatsoever. So I don't think I think we'll never know.
I have to ask, why do the Banks brothers in their safe house have such a big letterbox that a fucking grappling hook can fit through it and rip their front door clean off? The size of that letterbox was massive.
A fucking cat flap.
Is it for drug parcels to come through? Or, yeah, it's an industrial sized letterbox. They were expecting Amazon packages before Amazon were around. What the fuck? I can fit a grappling hook through that.
Yeah. Sorry we couldn't deliver your package. It wouldn't fit through the letterbox. Don't talk pish. Everything fits through that letterbox. I also quite enjoyed the Smash advert that was on the TV just before just before the grappling hook and the shooting started.
The other part I had a slight issue with, and I did watch an interview with Paul Ferris, so it was kind of explained,
right.
But not really. But you might know a bit more about this than I do in terms of if you've read the books and stuff. So the car bomb, which kills Arthur's mother-in-law.
Right.
And so initially, when you see the car bomb go off, the whole car fucking goes up in flames.
Yeah.
Like, it comes out both windows, the windscreen, the back door. The whole, that inside of that car is completely, yeah. So now I did watch an interview to say with Paul Ferris, and he did say that Arthur always had a driver.
Yeah.
So they put the bomb under the passenger seat.
Right.
Thinking that Arthur would be in the passenger seat. So it just so happened that evening Arthur was driving, mother-in-law in the car, so obviously she gets the brunt of the blast. However, when you see Arthur in hospital, he's basically just got like a little bit of a sprained wrist, and he's holding his wrist. He's got no burns.
Yeah.
there's nothing there, nothing on his face, nothing on his arms. He's literally just been in a car bomb that has killed his mother-in-law. And all he's got like a tuba grip round his wrist. And he's like, oh, it's a bit sore. oh, really? If you've just survived a car bomb, is that all you're going to have?
It's because
you're not going to have like a little burn on your forehead or something.
I think it's just because he was fucking hard as fuck. Explosions will only sprain his wrist and nothing more.
But that would have improved the film so much more, though, if he turned into the Dark Man of Glasgow. And he'd become Dark Man and sort of sat in the corner of his pub. And, in fact, now I think about it, actually, even in the end scene when he's dying, does he not have a pint of Guinness in front of him?
He does, yeah. It does. I mean, listen, mate. When my number is called, I hope that I'm sitting in a pub with a pint of Guinness in front of me. The only thing that I would wish for that Arthur didn't get is that hopefully I'd be able to take a couple of mouthfuls off it before I checked out, because Arthur's pint is untouched when his heart gives up.
Yeah, but Arthur's an old school guy, and in that pub back in that day, would it not be a pint of like 80 or 70 shilling that he would have in front of him rather than a pint of Guinness?
I don't think so. I mean, Guinness has been around for fucking hundreds of years, isn't it? So, I would have thought that Arthur Thompson was probably like a 70 or 80 shilling man. Maybe like pint of Youngers, something like that, tartan special. I remember reading in the Arthur Thompson book about the car bomb. I think like the car was described as a wee 2-seater like sports car, like a wee MG or something like that. I think that happened. I mean, I'm trying to remember. It's been so long since I read those books, but I think it happened like quite a long time before he was involved with Paul Ferris. So I think there's a wee bit of poetic license being taken with it happened to happen like after Paul was being round for a wee Sunday roast, The pub, I can tell you, the pub that is quite a famous pub in Glasgow. It's called the Provenmill Inn. It's actually not a million miles away from where my house in Glasgow is. It's far enough away, but it's not that far away. And the house that the Thompsons lived in, just along the road from the pub, there's a row of about 4 or 5 houses that back onto Ridgeway Cemetery, depressingly. And Arthur Thompson's house was called the Ponderosa, and basically he had 2 of these houses that were kind of pushed together, like sort of knocked together. Quite a famous wee place to sort of drive past in Glasgow. There you go.
So yeah, overall, thinking about back to initial viewing and watching it again, what do you think?
I mean, it's okay. I sort of, kind of living in Glasgow, when I first moved back there, I sort of saw all these people initially as being quite glamorous and all that kind of thing, and for in my kind of early 20s, but as I got older, when you do come into contact with people who are either on the fringes of that kind of thing or who claim to be, and I think if you take the movie for what it is, just a sort of crime thriller, it's a decent film, right? It's pretty good. There's some good performances in there. It's quite a good story, but in terms of kind of glamorizing these guys, you know what I mean? They're like, these guys aren't fucking criminal masterminds or geniuses. Like, every one of them is either dead or has been in jail for huge parts of their lives. And I just, I think the thing that kind of bugs me a little bit about the film, and it's not really the fault of the film, it's the fact that there'll be people who will talk about how, that bit in the Wee Man, that never happened. I was there. That was a lot of shite. Do you know what I mean? And I just like, fuck off. Do you know what I mean? Nobody gives a fuck. You know what I mean? Lived in the same street your entire life. So it's okay. I mean, the movie, despite any misgivings that we may have about parts of it or whatever, it won the BAFTA Scotland Cineworld Audience Award at the 2013 Scottish BAFTAs. So it's officially an award winning film. But something that I found quite interesting, I don't know if you found this in your research, but the movie is directed by a man called Ray Burdis, who used to be an actor. And I was looking at his credits, and he plays, I don't know how familiar you are with the Ray Winston movie Scum, but he plays Eckersley, and Eckersley is one of the 3 guys. The other 2 played by Nick Cotton of EastEnders Byers and Phil Daniels, the three guys who initially antagonise Ray Winston when he first comes into the Borstal. He's the one that kind of, I think he brings the radio into the young guy who ends up killing himself near the end of the film and says, oh, here, you can borrow this radio, and then reports that the radio has been stolen to one of the wardens and gets the young guy into trouble. So I quite like that, because the Scums it's also a very classic British film, and as hard as it is to watch in parts, even now, sort of 40 years on, it's still brilliant. It's a great movie.
I still can't watch the potting shed scene.
No, it's horrible. It's horrendous. Yeah. So I was quite interested to, he's actually had quite a prolific, not like massive kind of breakthrough roles, but it's got a lot of credits on his IMDb. Old Eckersley, as he will forever be known.
Ray Burdiss, he directed Love, Honour and Obey.
That's right.
Which is kind of another British gangster film, and he was a producer on The Craze.
He was.
Which kind of, The Wee Man is almost like a kind of low budget Scottish version in terms of it's a sympathetic kind of viewing of a Scottish gangster. Because The Craze, let's face it, they weren't very nice, but the film The Craze, starring my cousins Gary and Martin, does portray them as kind of sympathetic kind of guys. I haven't seen The Craze for a long time. Might need to watch that again.
I've not seen it. I found that after watching Legend with Tom Hardy playing both brothers, which is a good movie. I don't know. It's hard to think of The Craze, and The Craze is a good film, but it's hard to think of them as like the same characters because they're so different, And the thing about Gary and Martin Kemp is that they're both good-looking guys, especially back then in the 80s. You know what I mean? And when that film came out, they were sort of at the height of their popularity. But there's another wee connection to The Craze, albeit tenuous, and apparently, and you got to take this for what it is. This could be just absolute bollocks, but Arthur Thompson is reputed to have done business with The Craze in the 1960s between London and Glasgow. So, whether that's true or not is not for me to say, but that's certainly what Reg Mackay said in his book. So criminal connections.
We will take that as Paul Ferris gospel, which is what I think we'll refer to that to from now on. Okay then, shall we run The Wee Man through our awards?
Yeah, okay, let's put The Wee Man through the coveted Culture Swally Awards. So the first one then, I've got the Jake McQuillan Diertizoot Award. So I had two potentials for this. What did you have?
I went for the scalping.
Scalping.
Because I thought that's a hell of a Diertizoot. So yeah, I went for scalping. What did you go for your two?
I was between either the flashback scene where Small Paul witnesses Arthur executing the guy in the kind of warehouse.
Yeah.
Or the one that I think on reflection I'll give it to when Tam McGraw bottles the wig-wearing comedian in the pub. That felt like quite a Jake
you're right.
Quite a Jake McQuillan thing to do,
Yeah, that is quite a your teaser. You're right. Yeah, I think I'll give you that actually.
Okay. The James Cosmo Award for being in Everything Scottish. Again, I was swithering between two possibilities. Who did you have?
Was it Martin Compston and Stephen McCall?
Well, because James Cosmo tends to play sort of important but smaller parts in a lot of things, apart from Braveheart, of course, in which he's... I went with either Joy McAvoy, who, seems to appear in quite a lot of Scottish things these days.
True.
And I'd put Dennis Lawson as well, but I can't really think of a great deal of Scottish stuff, apart from, like, Local Hero, that I've seen Dennis Lawson appear in.
I would say John Hannah and Claire Grogan have been in more things than Dennis Lawson. You know what? We didn't mention her enough on this. Let's give it to Claire Grogan.
Yeah.
For being a legend in Altered Images and
Gregory's
just
Girl.
Being a general Scottish legend.
Yeah. Claire Grogan's a sort of, when you see her being interviewed and stuff, she's a sort of person you wish was like your mum's pal who would come round, when you were a kid, who'd come round like on a Friday night for a glass of wine and a blether with your mum. You know what I mean? That's the kind of person I always take kind of Claire Grogan to be. Probably quite good to sit and natter to,
That's a perfect recasting, actually, that we should have covered on Sunshine on Leith. Jane Horrocks. That should have been Claire Grogan.
Yeah, you're spot on, because we know that Claire can sing as well, and Jane Horrocks can sing, maybe just not so much in a Scottish accent, but she's actually a good singer, Jane Horrocks.
Claire Grogan would have been better,
Yeah.
Okay,
So I've kind of taken a leaf out of your book for this next one, because like on the last podcast about Barney Thompson, you awarded something to the Nudity Award, the Ewan McGregor Award for Nudity. So in the last episode, you had like the dick in a box at the beginning of the film. And the bare arse on the desk. So I've gone for Ferris's executed pals that are left in the car next to the funeral procession, because if you've noticed, they've been undressed. And I think also the guys in the bar with the murderous little people, I think the guy hanging up had been undressed. I can't remember. What did you have for that?
I did not. I had none for that because I did not notice that at all. Right. The best thing I could think of was at Arthur Thompson's party. Right. One of the guys pulls his trousers down to show his scars on his arse, and that was the best I could come up with. So I will bow to your attention to detail on that, and I'll take that.
For the Begbie Award for efficient swearing, I've written down here, almost every time Fat Boy opens his mouth.
Yeah. I can go with that, actually. Yeah, I would go with that, or I would go with Arthur's mother-in-law, and it's just the way she delivers the line, and it's the whole kind of speech about, look, her Edinburgh accent, she was born in the fucking Gorbals. Yeah. And the way she delivers that
actress has been around. I'm trying to find her name here. She's a very good actress. I always remember her as being one of the ultimate victims in the Taggart drama, where it transpires, sorry, spoilers, that all these old people have been being murdered by two young teenage girls who they're in the pretense of being kind of home helps and stuff. I can't find her name now, but she's a great actress. So she is, but she's one of these, again, she could be a contender for the Cosmo Award because she pops up in a lot of things. But yeah, that's a great line. There she maybe Eve Pierce, I think that's her name. But yeah, that's a good example. But also, like, when I kind of mentioned it earlier, when Stephen McCall and Martin Compston are in the car and they see the Banks brothers, but just before that, when Fat Boy's shouting at the guy to get out the road, and he's like, just run the old cunt over, you're doing her a favour, and all that. It's just like about a sort of like 40-second uninterrupted volley of expletives.
We are going to show Glasgow what happens to cunts that fuck with the Thompsons. This city needs to be sent a fucking message. Do you hear what I'm saying? A fucking message. They're Banks. Fucking Banks. Dead men walking. Bunch of smelly bastards. I tell you what, Paul, I want their eyes. Know what I'm saying? I want the fucking eyes in a jar. Not saying much, Paul. Huh? Quiet man? Come on, you! Fucking move! Fuck's sake! Just knock your old cunt down, you did a favour!
Okay, next then, so archetypal Scottish moment. What did you have for this?
I kind of struggled with this because there's so much, but I went with having a snug in the bar as an office for a gangster. Because we've seen it a couple of times before. We've seen it in Down Among the Big Boys.
Yeah.
And it is kind of a snug bar. I don't know, is that a thing in England? Because I know, like, my Cameron's, where we used to go a lot, they have a snug bar.
Yeah.
And a lot of bars in Scotland have a little snug. But I don't know if they have that in England. So, and I guess it is always kind of the gangsters' meeting ground.
They do have it in England, unfortunately. The reason I know this is because I remember seeing a very, very old, like, black and white episode of Coronation Street, and the old lady characters in that episode were sitting in the snug because one of them took a heart attack and died in the snug. So yeah, unfortunately, it's not particular to Scotland, the snug bars. I mean, I had shot up the arse because I couldn't think of anything else. It seems to be, by all accounts, it's a very Glaswegian thing to do.
We'll give it to a shot up the arse.
And then the last award then is the Sean Connery Award. Who got to go home and fuck the prom queen? Who won the movie for you? I feel like we'll be aligned on this.
Stephen McCall wins this film for me. He is absolutely fantastic.
Me too. Yeah, Jay's just like every scene he's in, he just chews the scenery. Yeah, I thought he was brilliant in it.
But not in a bad way. I know what you mean. Like, chewing the scenery can often be a kind of description for someone like overacting and hamming it, but he's absorbing that role so well. But he does kind of stick out a little bit in the film, but he's so good. He
is in a scene which I don't think would ever happen in Scotland, and that is when he's standing on the roof with John Hannah on the roof of a pub in Scotland, doing bumps of cocaine off his hand. I mean, that powder would be blown away as soon as he tipped it out. You're not telling me that it's calm enough on that pub roof for old fat boy to be doing cheeky bumps and offering it to Tam McGraw.
Oh, well. Okay. Well, does that conclude The Wee Man?
I think it does. It does.
That was my choice, Greg. So it's your choice next time. What are we going to be looking at next time on the Swally?
Well, I was conscious of the fact that you chose a movie this week that you hadn't seen before, and it's been a wee while since I've chosen something that I've never seen before. So for the next, I've chosen another film for the next episode. Not by design. It does have Martin Compston in it, but I don't think in as big a part, which sort of gives him a bit of a hat-trick on the Swally. But I've chosen 2006's Red Road with Kate Dickie, Tony Curran, Natalie Press, and Martin Compston. So sorry, it's not the Martin Compston season on the Culture Swally. It's just unfortunate that I made my choice.
It does seem like it.
And just realised a second ago that he was also in this film. So
I've never seen that either.
Wow,
so
wow.
Yeah.
Is that a Swally first that we're both watching something we've never seen before?
I don't know. Was there something we did before we hadn't seen? No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think this could be a Swally first.
Brilliant.
In terms of something neither of us have seen. Oh, fantastic. Well, first of all, I want to give a big shout out to our Instagram follower, Strong Henry. Greg, you called him out on the last episode.
I did.
And you said that he likes all our posts and he never... You wondered if he listened. And
yeah, I just wanted
some Instagram messages.
Yeah, it was just a wee test to see if he was a listener or if he just enjoyed our social media content. You know.
Well, he does listen. And he has been very active on our Instagram page. So thank you very much, Henry. As we said last week, we love you and we can't wait to taste your Scotch pies. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. If you want to be like Strong Henry, then you can follow us on Instagram at Culture Swally Pod, or you can follow us on Twitter at Swally Pod, or if you have any news stories that you've seen you'd like us to review, or any shows or films you'd like us to review, then you can get in touch with us on cultureswally@gmail.com. Greg, website, should I ask?
Well, the website is we're a bit closer to getting it back up and running. It's been a week or so since I've attempted. So I've had some things going on. But if you want to visit us online, you can find us at cultureswallyblog.com. Links to all the episodes are there, including this one, plus some links to some of our favourite news stories. And you can also get in touch with us through there as well with any suggestions or comments on what we've done so far. 30 episodes. 30 episodes. Last one was number 30. This is episode 31. I think we've forgotten to thank somebody actually before we say goodbye. We need to thank the lady who got in touch with us about Sunshine on Leith. Our second email that we've had in a year since we started doing the Swally. It comes from Sue Jelliff. I hope I'm pronouncing your second name right, Sue. Apologies if I'm not. She wrote to us on September the 1st to say that she watched the film Sunshine on Leith while staying in Edinburgh with her youngest son and his girlfriend. When she was out searching for some info about the film afterwards, she stumbled across our podcast about it. She just finished listening. She does agree with most of our conversation about the movie. She agrees that it is a musical which just about manages to hit the spot despite being on shaky ground at times. I think she might have put that a little bit better than maybe you or I did. She finds it interesting that we both chose the song Let's Get Married in the pub as our favourite rendition of a Proclaimers hit in the movie, because for her that was her least favourite. Sue, come on. She said it's an occasion when the cast burst into song for no particular reason. I think pretty much every number in the movie the cast bursts into song for no particular reason.
I think we did say that was our least favourite part about the film, when they burst into song for no reason. Whereas in the pub, it kind of felt a bit natural.
Yeah, a sing-song with a few pints of Tennent's. She says that she enjoyed It's Over and Done With, and she thinks that that's a good sentiment to adopt in life, but she thinks that we missed a trick, Nikki, because we didn't really mention the young John Spence, who plays Ali's nephew. She thought that he was brilliant, and he brought some really bright moments to the film. So, well, thank you for writing in, Sue. Yeah, you're right, actually. I don't remember speaking much about John Spence, but yeah, it was quite a nice little touch in the film.
We didn't, and funnily enough, I remember writing in my notes, whoever plays the wee lad is brilliant, and I forgot to mention him when we were doing the podcast, so apologise for that. Yeah, he was great.
But yep, thanks for writing in, Sue. Sorry that we almost forgot about you there.
Alright, thanks, Sue. Okay, well, I guess that review is over and done with. If you'd like to leave a review or send us an email, then please get in touch. Okay, until next time then.
Okay, until next time.